Hello, 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 namaste. Thank you for joining in. Wow, just had an interesting interaction on Facebook, which ugh, really helped me understand the problem with Neo-Advaita and wow, wow, wow. So very briefly, someone who I don't really know, we have a bunch of mutual friends. They sent me a friend request. We've chatted just a little bit. Um, for some reason, they sent me this song. Uh, it's a song from A Course in they put a part of A Course in Miracles, which is it's kind of Advaita Vedanta, but it's also kind of qualified Advaita. But most people think it is non-duality, but it really isn't. It's actually qualified non-duality leaning towards non-duality. Um, so they sent me this song. Um, there was some lines from A Course in Miracles singing, my will is one with the will of God, and there is only one will. Which I didn't, I don't resonate with that. Um, I strive to align my will with the will of God, and um, but no, there's absolutely multiple wills. The ego has its own will, or that's my view anyway. That's the model I work with. Um, so to just deny that seems very unhealthy for to me and for me. I can say it's very unhealthy for me. Um, and so I responded saying, "Well, my will is to be saturated in the will of God, and I think that's God's will for me." And the person responded, "Yes, Arthur, we are love itself." Whoa. Okay. So when that's a red that when something like that happens, it's like boom, hands up, stop. Not just stop to them, stop to yourself. So someone is trying to change my belief, right? Like I said, "Oh, my will is to be saturated with the love of God, and I think that's God's will for me." And look how the person responded. You are love itself. So that's a classic Neo-Advaita move, is to try and shift someone from any kind of idea that there's any kind of difference between you and God, or that there's any difference between in Advaita Vedanta, it's you and consciousness. But the thing where it gets really interesting, and this is not just teachers who do this is individuals who do it. And God and I did it, not a lot, but I would go through phases where it's like trying to convince people of non-duality, um, of really Neo-Advaita. But and so you can feel it. It just feels kind of yucky. And so I invite people to be really mindful of this. And if you watch any of the Q&As on any of the satsangs, you'll watch the teacher doesn't connect with the student. The I don't even want to call him teacher, but the teacher tries to shift the student into a belief. And the thing is it's a system. And so it's like the person says something or ask a question. The teacher from their mind identifies like, okay, where's the non-dual error? And then, okay, how can I shift them into non-duality? And I'm using these motions because it is violent, unless you're attuned to where the student is at. So this person wasn't attuned to me at all. They didn't hear they maybe they heard what I said, but if they were actually attuned to me, they would have never said what they just said. Like, this is someone who really knows nothing about me. We've had a couple brief interactions online. Um, they're certainly not attuned to me energetically. And, contrast this with Ramana. Sometimes he would be silent with people. Sometimes he would just talk about their life. It doesn't get recorded in the books much. Uh, Sometimes he would have philosophical conversations. Sometimes he would just say, "Love God." Sometimes he'd say, "Dude, japa is good." Someone would say, "Our mantra is helpful." For some people, he would remain silent. For some people, he'd say, "Yes, mantra is very good." For some people, he'd say, "It's a preparatory practice." To some people, he'd say, "Yes, it can take you all the way." So that's attunement. And you can watch Neo-Advaita teachers do it left and right, as do religious people, because it's about fitting someone into a system. Um, and so after this, I actually felt a little sick, and I really sat with, well, why? And then I didn't just feel sick, I felt horror, because Neo-Advaita, or wrongly taught non-duality, is very violent. It's emotionally violent. Here's why. It's a complete denial of individuality. It's a complete denial of anything except the one substance. So in Neo-Advaita, or actually in Advaita, well, that's a questionable, but in Neo-Advaita, consciousness is all there is, and it's a denial of everything else. It's a denial of your personality. It's a denial of your life. It's a denial of nature, of this planet, of your hobbies, of your interests, of your feelings. They don't even exist according to Advaita, Neo-Advaita. And so when someone tries to shift you into Neo-Advaita, and God knows I did it to myself many times, it's kind of like an emotional form of rape, and I do not use that word lightly. I have friends who have been raped. I've, you know, read up a little bit on the phenomenon and the horror and the trauma of it. And so rape is kind of a complete denial of the person, and just, yeah, it's really a complete denial of the living, breathing, feeling sentience of the other, of the one being raped. And that's what that's what Neo-Advaita does. It's a complete denial and dismissal and of everything other than consciousness. So in this case, this person's into A Course in Miracles. So they, instead of saying consciousness, it's love. Love is considered the, and I don't have a problem with saying that love is the supreme reality, but to say it's the only reality, when I did that to myself and I went let other teachers do that, it just like it just tears, it just tears our relative self, our feelings, our hobbies, our interests, our relationships. It's this act of violence of trying to tear them out, but you can't. You can only suppress them. Hi, a beer. That's an interesting. Uh, I don't know exactly when he's one of the biggies for sure. Uh, I believe Nisargadatta is one of the biggies, and people misquoting Ramana. So that's my theory. I'm not a historian. That's not my forte, but in just my reflections, it seems like Papaji, Nisargadatta. I mean, Papaji, in my view, it's unquestionably one of the huge influences. And then after Papaji, then started, I believe, the misquoting of Ramana, or the not getting the holistic picture of what Ramana taught. So, so I hope other people can really feel into what I'm talking about. The horror of You know, can you imagine a child, uh, a child crying and the parent picking them up and saying, "There's no reason to cry. Your consciousness." It would be horrific. And if they do it once, whatever, but if they do that over and over and over again, how unhealthy would that be? Well, now, okay, so most of us aren't kids, we're adults, but we have relationships and we have jobs and responsibilities and pets and hobbies and passions. And then we have Neo-Advaita people. They won't often come out and just say it, but their message is none of that matters. The radical message is none of it even exists. And by the way, I'm not saying that that's the truth. I'm just saying that's what is taught. And how violent is that? How emotionally, um, if the person takes it in, it's ah, no. So please be mindful when people are seeking to shift you. And really, it's like, who the fuck is this person? Like, it's not like they're some sage. Basically, they've meditated, had some spiritual experiences, and read some spiritual books, and now they think they know something. And worse than thinking they know something, that's fine. We all think we know things, but worse is, oh, I know, I know what's best for someone else. Whoa, that's a danger, Will Robinson, danger. As they used to say in an old sci-fi. No, no, I didn't say Nisargadatta. So here's a great example. Um, uh, so I believe what I said is that after Papaji, people started misquoting Ramana. I mean, we can replay the video, but that's what I believe what I said is there was, Papaji came on the scene, and then after that, people started misquoting Ramana. That's my memory, but we can of course replay the video. So beware the shift, beware the spiritual shift. And I very bluntly, uh, here's how I responded to the person. Do 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 do. Hi, Angel. So it is okay with me if you believe you and I are love itself, and I absolutely do not. A Course in Miracles and Non-Duality, I should have said Neo-Advaita, but regardless. A Course in Miracles and Non-Duality took me to the brink of insanity and suicide. So I practice and live qualified non-duality. Happy to share more if you'd like to hear about the difference between qualified non-duality and non-duality. I'll be curious to see. I think this person can have a reasonable conversation, so I'll be curious to see. Well said. Abir wrote, what I understood is people just memorize words and don't actually realize it, and that loses the main point. Boom shakalaka laka, boom shakalaka. So that's kind of what religion is, right? Is someone peddling a spiritual doctrine without having actually realized it. Now it gets tricky in Neo-Advaita because it's very easy to have a taste of the experience that's called the self. And by the way, I really want to look up uh, the Sanskrit. I believe the term they referring to is Atman, but when they say the self. But so uh, yeah, it becomes a doctrine. I remember once I was in a satsang, and it was actually pretty pretty healthy. It was not your typical Neo-Advaita satsang. And someone was like, well, the self can't be, they're before the teacher and they share a little bit, and then the student is like, well, the self can't be affected by anything, and you know, I know this, and the self is untouchable, and da da da. It was like the student started giving a talk, and then the teacher at a certain point was like, uh, it kind of sounds a little mental. Like, just come back to the presence. I like that. I like that teacher. Not Neo-Advaita in the typical sense of the word. And I remember one Neo-Advaita satsang I sat in, and if you said anything that wasn't the Neo-Advaita message, before the teacher would correct you, all these other people would be like, da 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 da. Well, the self is da da da, and if you just inquire, and da 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 da. It was like none of these people were living, so far as I could tell, were living in the continuous communion. Ramana said self-inquiry, once it's completed, it just goes on effortlessly, eternally. You're in then eternal communion with the self. None of these people, so far as I could tell, were living in that, but boy, did they all have the doctrine down. And boy, were they all ready to shift everyone. Hmm. Yeah, I haven't checked out Krishnamurti. I mean, I've checked him out a little bit. Mm. So I'm very particular with the word. So you can say that Krishnamurti maybe taught um, non the philosophy of non-duality, but the thing is Advaita Vedanta. It's a school. It's a language. It's a school. It's a grammar. It's a process. And so Krishnamurti absolutely did not teach the process of Advaita Vedanta, of the school of Advaita. Uh, maybe he taught uh, non-dual concepts, or maybe he was trying to lead people to non-dual awakening. But I've just gotten very strict in my language um, for a variety of reasons. But one of them being, see, the way I break it down in my mind is there's goal and there's process. Neo-Advaita is really good at teaching part of the goal. And I would define the goal is continuous absorption in the self and righteous living. And the two go hand in hand. Neo-Advaita does not teach the righteous living component. By righteous, I mean dharmic, but it does teach about this immersion in consciousness. But it doesn't teach the process. And that's why I'm very strict, is like Advaita Vedanta is a, and it's more than that. It's a process, it's a goal, and all of it is contained in Sanatam Dharma, the underlying philosophy of Hinduism, which includes karma and reincarnation. And Adi Shankar's crescent jewel of discernment, the first line, he talks about reincarnation. I believe it's the first stanza. And so in my view, Advaita Vedanta is process, goal, process, righteous living, and then goal of absorption in the self, which is so connected to righteous living, contained in Hinduism slash Sanatam Dharma. Four things: process, righteous living, goal, context, Sanatam Dharma. Neo-Advaita only covers immersion in consciousness. So it's like 25%. You're getting 25% of Neo-Advaita only gives us 25%. And this is just my model. In my view, uh, can you imagine going to a doctor and the doctor's going to do surgery on you, and the doctor's only completed 25% of their training? No bueno. Yes, 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 yes. So thank you so much. To recap, mistaught, improperly taught non-duality or Neo-Advaita is literally traumatic to the relative self because it tries to tear away everything that we think of as life. Neo-Advaita is anti-life. Make no mistake about it. What is life? Nature, body, emotions, passions. And by passion, I don't just mean feelings. I mean like, you know, what are you passionate about? Relationship, responsibility, uh, dharmic living, community. All these things, Neo-Advaita will say they don't matter and they actually don't even exist. Everything that we think that's important to life. And so, but Neo-Advaita won't come out and directly say that. It'll say things that lead to that conclusion. And it's just this brutal process emotionally. And at a certain point, we start doing it to ourselves. A beer wrote, people tend to go for the easy way. That was my problem. And it sold well too, you know. But yeah, yeah, well said, a beer. All right, dear ones, have a beautiful, beautiful day. Going for a walk, doing a hobby, petting the cat, having a healthy relationship, doing service, living life.